Greetings all, we have some fun videos for you coming up. We'll cover the rise and fall of the Mongols, the expansion of the West in a search for new wealth, yet another crisis created by the papacy, surprise, surprise, Black Death, and the lead up to the longest ongoing conflict in human history, the Hundred Years' War. Strap in, Chapter 10 is going to be a wild ride.
Both Marco Polo's description of the world and John de Manville's The Book of Marvels were the product of an era of unprecedented interactions among the peoples of Europe, Asia, and the interconnected Mediterranean world. Narratives were as fantastical as they were factual, making them problematic sources for historians. They are representative of an era that seemed wide open to every source of influence. Communication and commercial exchange made Western civilizations part of an interlocking network that had the potential to span the globe.
The Mongols were among many steppe nomadic peoples of Central Asia. Although closely connected with Turkish populations, the Mongols would speak their own language and have their own homeland. It's, of course, located north of the Gobi Desert, which is now modern day Mongolia, I guess, for those who couldn't guess. The Mongols themselves were herdsmen who depended on sheep and horses, which provide shelter, woolen clothing, milk, and, of course, meat. As highly accomplished horsemen and raiders, it was the first emperor of China, forgive me, Qin Shi Huang, who constructed a series of walls, and of course, the later Qing emperors would expand it to what is the modern Great Wall of China. They would, of course, attempt to keep these steppe raiders out. The wall wasn't enough, though, and China would defend itself by ensuring the Mongols remained almost internally divided, effectively causing factional infighting amongst the different tribes. This would all change in the late 12th century with a Mongol chief named Temujin, 1162 to 1227, who, of course, would begin to unite the various tribes under his rule.
We're not here to give a dissertation. Take notes of the highlights. Consider the growth of strong links between Europe and the Far East. We have the late 13th century, which establishes direct connection on the Silk Road. We have writings such as the Description of the World and the Book of Marvel, which inspired future travelers and were indicators of an interconnected world. Look at the Mongolian peoples. They were divided into tribal groups. They were located north of the Gobi Desert, herdsmen, mostly of sheep, and were highly accomplished horsemen considered among the world's finest warriors on horseback.
Temujin would take the title of Genghis Khan from the Mongol word meaning universal ruler. And for this section, I turn to your textbook because for once the authors put something in words so well put that I cannot better them. Taking advantage of the fact that China was then divided into three warring states, Genghis Khan launched an attack on the Qin Empire of the north and managed to penetrate deep into the interior by 1211. These initial attacks were probably looting expeditions rather than deliberate attempts at conquest. Their aims were soon sharpened under Genghis Khan's successors. Shortly after his death in 1227, a full-scale invasion of both northern and western China was underway. In 1234, those regions also fell to the Mongols. By 1279, one of Genghis Khan's numerous grandsons, Kublai Khan, would complete the conquest by adding southern China to his empire. For the first time in centuries, China was reunited under Mongol rule. Now, let's consider the role of fate in history. Take a moment to consider the opportunities and challenges of this what if style thinking of history. Often people love to play with this idea. What if Genghis Khan never existed? What if Hitler got hit by a bus? Would the wars largely have turned out the same? Genghis Khan, I would argue, was one of the few people where The concept of fate or what if almost makes sense. Normally, no single person plays so great a role that their life or death will change the very fabric of history. But his uniting of the disparate clans absolutely did, even if he did not live to see their greatest conquest. But just to show you the reach and kind of state of their conquest, let's give you an example, a visual, if you will. Here we have the states of the Mongol Empire, like Alexander's. Genghis Khan's empire was swiftly assembled and encompassed vast portions of both Europe and Asia. How many different Mongol Khanates were there after 1260 when Kublai Khan came to power? Were these domains mapped onto older divisions within the Western civilizations? How might the Mongol occupation of the Islamic world have aided the expansion of European trade? At the same time, why would it have complicated the efforts of Crusader armies in the Holy Land?
Ogedei consider that he had laid plans for an even farther reaching expansion of the Mongol influence. In 1237 to 1240, the Mongols conquered Kiev. There was a two-pronged assault directed at the European frontier. April of 1241, the Battle of Legitsa. The Mongols were driven back. 2 days later, the Battle of the Bridge at the Seho River. The Hungarian army was annihilated. The Mongolian army could have moved even deeper into Europe after this important victory, but it withdrew with news that Ogedei Khan had died.
Here we have the Battle of Legnitsa in 1241. The image from a 14th century chronicle shows heavily armored knights from Poland and Germany on the right confronting the swift moving mounted archers of the Mongol cavalry on the left. Mongol warriors had the advantage over Europeans, mostly because of their smaller and faster horses were carrying lighter loads. This would allow them to shoot their opponents at great distance with their bows, as well as turning and retreating fire. But which army here appears to be winning or at least gaining the upper hand? You'd be amazed at how unclear it is, despite this being a victory.
Now let's consider Muscovy and the Mongol Khanate. The Mongols extended their rule from the Black Sea to Central Asia. Khanate, the Golden Horde. At first, the Mongols ruled Rus directly. After Kublai Khan's death in 1294, the Mongols began to tolerate the existence of several semi independent principalities from which they demanded regular tribute. The Duchy of Moscow gained new political and economic prominence. It was a strategic geographical location. It is also a tribute collecting center. And of course, Duke Ivan I became the Grand Prince of Rus.
Once Moscow became the tribute collecting center for the Mongol Khanate, and thus the Mongols would begin supplying it with resources to defend itself, the dukes would be encouraged to extend their lordship to neighboring territories, eventually coming to control the Khanate's tax collecting system. With new powers, Duke Ivan I, 1325 to 40, gained the title Grand Prince. When the Mongol Empire disintegrated, the Muscovites were in a strong position to supplant it, and supplant it they did. But we have goods such as the Mongol robe made from cloth of gold here. The majestic term, Khanate of the Golden Horde, captures both the power and splendor of the Mongol warriors who conquered Rus as well as other lands. The robe depicted here dates from the late 13th or early 14th century, it's debated, and was made from cloth of gold, silk woven with gold, sometimes silver threads, a precious and surprisingly durable material that was used as banners and sometimes even tents. A robe similar to this one, not too recently, sold at auction for nearly $250,000.
Now let's look at the making of the Mongol Ilkhanate. The Mongol armies were sent to subdue the Near East. And of course, the Sunni Sultanate had been founded by the Seljuk Turks in 1077, which had successfully withstood waves of crusading aggression. In 1243, the Seljuks of Rum surrendered to the Mongols. The Byzantium lands in Anatolia fell to the Mongols, and the Crusader Principality of Antioch was conquered in 1268. The Mongolian advance was stopped by the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, which was established in 1250.
The disparate territories captured by the Mongols come to be called Nil Khanate, meaning that its Mongol rulers pay deference to the Great Khan. The first Il Khan was Hulagu, the brother of Kublai. His descendants ruled for another 80 years and would convert to Islam. Here we have a depiction of the Mongol ruler of Islamic Persia and his Christian queen, as well as his Jewish historian. Hulagu Khan, 1217 to 65, consolidated Persia and its neighboring regions into the Il Khanate. This image shows him with his wife, Okul's Khatun, who was a Turkic princess and Christian. Comes from the Compendium of Chronicles by Rashid al-Din, 1247 to 1318. He was a Jewish convert to Islam whose work exemplifies the pluralistic culture encouraged by Mongol rule. It was written in Persian and often translated into Arabic. It embeds the achievements of the Mongol ruler within a long history of the Islamic world. Why would Rashid al-Din have wanted to place the new Mongol dynasty in this historical context? Here's a hint: he might just be saving face.
The Mongol Empire stretched from the Black Sea to the Pacific Ocean. It contained 1/5 of the Earth's surface, the largest land empire in history, and yet no Mongol ruler's power was absolute. Consider Kublai Khan from 1260 to 1294, as Khagan had centralized power in China and in Mongolia and used the Chinese imperial bureaucracy. Elsewhere, Mongol governance directed at a steady tribute payment from subject peoples, and local rulers could retain much of their power. Although a period of cultural exchange between Europe and Asia also marked the end of the Islamic Golden Age. The city of Herat, destroyed by Genghis Khan in 1221, which did not recover for centuries. We have Baghdad, sacked by the Mongols in 1258. And of course, the House of Wisdom was destroyed.
Fostering of trade, protection of roads, etc., would make life easy for merchants. Gorgeous textiles, utensils, illuminated books were prized by the Mongols. Distribution of authority made Mongol rule flexible and adaptable to local conditions. Mongol Khans were also tolerant of religious beliefs, as you saw. Further, the acceptance of cultural and religious difference and stability made the Pax Mongolica possible. But not all inhabitants were willing participants, including those who were enslaved or forcefully relocated. Of course, the Mongols would often transfer entire families and communities of craftsmen from one part of the empire to the other, unintentionally generating a mixed culture. Here, to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the diversity the Mongols are bringing to the table and really the uprooting that much of these Mongol relocations created, we begin to think of the medieval world as a system with spheres. Now, spheres of influence and political spheres are actually quite a modern term used to describe modern countries, but I truly believe that we can impart that term, use that thinking, that terminology here, especially when it concerns the Mongols. So, I digress. Here is the Mongol world system, circa 1300. At the turn of the 14th century, Western civilizations were closely connected to each other and to the rest of the world, more so than ever before. waterways, overland routes would stretch from Greenland to the Pacific coast of Southeast Asia down through West Africa. The interlocking regions and contact zones of the system were represented here. How did Europe's relationship with its neighbors change as a result of its integration into this wider world? How were seemingly marginal territories, as an example, Rus, Hungary, Scotland, or even Norway, central to one or more interlocking components within this system?
Now, the Mongols controlled the caravan routes that led from the Mediterranean into the Black Sea to China. Now, the Silk Road was protected by the Mongols, and among the first Western travelers were Franciscan missionaries. In 1253, the Friar William of Rubsrock was sent by Louis IX to France as his ambassador to the Mongol court. Merchants followed. We have Niccolo and Matteo Polo, and Niccolo's son, Marco, 1254 and 1324. We have the Muslim adventurer Ibn Battuta from 1304 to 1368, who traveled the Islamic and Mongolian worlds for over 75,000 miles.
Here, we have a depiction of their meeting, Venetian ambassadors to the Great Khan. Around 1270, the Venetian merchant brothers Niccolo Matteo Polo are returning to Europe after their first prolonged journey through the empire of the Great Khan, bearing with them an official letter to the Roman Pope. This image from a manuscript of Marco Polo's description of the world shows his father and uncle at the moment of their arrival in the Great Khan's court, for which they have seemingly brought a Christian cross and a Bible. But knowing what you've learned about the Mongols and the medieval world, do you think it's possible that the Polo brothers would have carried these items with them?
All this trade came with some challenges. By the middle of the 14th century, hostilities made the Silk Road trade perilous. The Ilkhanate versus Genoa struggle over the port depot at Tabriz. Now, in 1346, the Golden Horde besieges the Genoese colony at Hatha. And, of course, trade on the Black Sea is disrupted by warfare. Now, the European economy is going to struggle due to plague. In 1368, the last Mongolian ruler of China was overthrown. The Europeans were denied access to China. The Pax Mongolica is at an end as the Trans-Eurasian commercial network no longer was sustainable.
By the mid 14th century, hostilities made travel along the Silk Road perilous. The conditions that had enabled an early integrated trans Eurasian cultural and commercial network, of course, are no longer possible. But it was this very trade network and the subsequent collapse thereof that will push Europe to search for new found wealth. That, however, is a story for another day. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and we will see you again next time.